You started to mention another one of your objections.
First Amendment.
First Amendment, okay. Any others?
Yeah, I also have a state rights, a 10th Amendment concern here, which is that states own the airspace adjacent to the land within their state that's not federally owned, and the current federal provisions don't recognize state sovereignty in that way.
So you want to give state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back, but you want to list a whole lot of conditions. Is that a fair assessment?
Not a whole lot, but some. There needs to be a nexus to the facility. It can't be any drone anywhere in America if you're concerned about a particular facility, but right now it's too broad. There have to be acknowledgments of First Amendment concerns. So for instance, limiting the covered facilities to the experience and logic test with which the courts use for right of public access, or prohibiting media bans across the board, or setting a time limit before and after special events so they don't extend extensively. This is what a number of state measures already do, and I'd like to see that at a federal level and apply to bring this within the constitutional limits.
Sounds like a lot of conditions to me.
Did you just see that? I've watched a lot of Senate hearings, and Senator John Kennedy just did something most politicians are completely terrified to do. He called it exactly what it was, to a professor's face on the record. You're trying to love this bill to death. That one line is the whole game, right there. That is Washington, D.C., in a single sentence. You've got bad actors flying drones over critical infrastructure, over power grids, over military bases. And instead of saying, yes, let's stop them, this professor walks in with a list. Fourth Amendment, First Amendment, 10th Amendment, time limits, nexus requirements, media bans. And Kennedy just sits there and goes, no. I see you. Now I want to be fair. We're going to watch the full video together because I want to give this professor his full hearing before I make up my mind. But I'll be honest right now, my instincts are already firing because I know this playbook. The guy who stands up and says, I support the thing, and the but is 30 conditions long. That's not support. That's obstruction wearing a suit. Lean into camera. So let's watch the whole thing. If you're new here, hit subscribe because we don't do surface level takes on this channel. We watch, we think, and we tell you the truth. Let's go.
The ports of entry, but that's not your experience, is it?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kennedy?
The bad guys are using drones. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. And the federal government has the authority to fight back, does it not? But state, nobody disagrees with that statement? Sure, Professor.
I would say within limits, yes. Within constitutional limits.
Okay. Do any of you disagree with giving state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back?
Again, within constitutional limits.
Okay. Tell me what your constitutional concerns are, Professor.
So I have three primary concerns. The first has to do with the Fourth Amendment and the conditions under which a warrant is required and a general warrant is forbidden by the Fourth Amendment. So in this particular case, it's important.
Professor, before you give me one of your lectures, are you saying that we should require state and local law enforcement to get a warrant before they fight back?
It depends on the condition. So in an exigent circumstance or something along the border.
I'm aware of the exceptions to the warrant requirement. But you, generally speaking, you want to require them to get a warrant.
Only for the search of a device or the seizure of property. There are also due process implications of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You started to mention another one of your objections.
First Amendment.
First Amendment. Okay. Any others?
Yeah, I also have a state rights, a 10th Amendment concern here, which is that states own the airspace adjacent to the land within their state that's not federally owned, and the current federal provisions don't recognize state sovereignty in that way.
So you want to give state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back, but you want to list a whole lot of conditions. Is that a fair assessment?
Not a whole lot, but some. There needs to be a nexus to the facility. It can't be any drone anywhere in America if you're concerned about a particular facility, but right now it's too broad. There have to be acknowledgments of First Amendment concerns. So for instance, limiting the covered facilities to the experience and logic test with which the courts use for right of public access, or prohibiting media bans across the board, or setting a time limit before and after special events so they don't extend extensively. This is what a number of state measures already do, and I'd like to see that at a federal level and apply to bring this within the constitutional
Sounds
limits.
like a lot of conditions to me.
No, not very many. As long as there's probable cause and the conditions are met, then absolutely you can.
Have you ever heard of a legislative practice called loving a bill to death?
Yes.
Okay? And that's when you take a bill and somebody says, I'm really for this bill. But then they add so many amendments and they screw it up so badly that the bill either becomes ineffective or doesn't pass. Is that a pretty accurate description?
Of the term?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're trying to love this to death, aren't you?
I disagree.
You're not really for giving law enforcement the power to fight back, are you?
I am in favor of giving law enforcement that power and respecting constitutional limits.
I don't believe you, Professor. Okay? You're not talking to Bambi's baby brother here. Okay? I've read some of your stuff. I think you'd be more intellectually honest if you just come out and say, I'm on the side of the bad guys here. I think we shouldn't give state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back. You're trying to make it as hard as possible, aren't you?
We'll have to disagree on that point, Senator.
Nah. You know, you ever heard the expression, watch what they do, not what they say? I've watched what you've done. I know what you believe. Or you're on the FISA court?
I'm not on the court. No, I'm an amicus for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court and the Court of Review.
Okay. Were you there when you guys issued all those bad warrants against Trump's people?
I can't discuss my work on the court,
Oh,
unfortunately.
it's top secret, right? You'd have to put me on the American people on double secret probation if you told them the truth, wouldn't you?
No. I can't discuss my matters that I've handled before the court. I can discuss the public ones where I've dealt with First Amendment concerns and the right to petition. I did an extensive history looking at that right
I'm
to
done,
petition.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Kennedy. We're going to turn it over to Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Full video, full picture. And my read from the snippet didn't change, it hardened. Kennedy doesn't come in swinging. He's methodical. Simple, binary questions. Do bad guys use drones? Everyone agrees. Does the federal government have authority to fight back? Everyone agrees. Within limits. Should state and local law enforcement have that authority too? And here is where the professor starts hedging. I'm not anti-intellectual. Constitutional limits are real and they matter. But there's a difference between raising genuine concerns and using constitutional language as a delay tactic. Kennedy, who is himself a lawyer, could smell that difference from a mile away. Listen to what the professor actually asked for. A nexus requirement to a specific facility. First Amendment carve-outs. Media ban restrictions. Time limits before and after special events. All of it codified at the federal level before law enforcement can act. The professor says that's not a lot of conditions. But complexity is the enemy of action. Every condition you add is another reason a sheriff watching a drone hover over a chemical plant at 2 a.m. hesitates to act. Every carve-out is a loophole. And the people flying those drones don't care about nexus requirements. Then Kennedy says the most important line of the whole clip. I don't believe you, Professor. People will say that was rude. I say it was honest. Because we live in a world where politicians and academics say the right words while doing the opposite thing. Kennedy looked this man in the eyes and said, your actions don't match your words. I've read your work. I know what you believe. That took guts, and he was right. He was also right to bring up the FISA court connection. This professor isn't a random academic. He's been inside the machinery, working on foreign intelligence surveillance cases that we now know had serious problems with how warrants were issued against American citizens. When Kennedy asked about that, the professor retreated immediately behind top secret. That's legitimate, fine. But it tells you something about the full picture of who you're dealing with. Here's my conclusion. Kennedy walked into that hearing knowing exactly what the professor was going to do. He'd done his homework. And rather than playing along with polite disagreement, he named it publicly and without apology. Loving a bill to death. That phrase describes exactly how good policy dies in Washington. State and local law enforcement deserve the tools to protect their communities from drone threats. That's not radical, that's common sense. And if a constitutional law professor can't get behind that without a 30-point amendment list, then Kennedy is right to question whose side he's actually on. Direct to camera, that's my take. Agree or disagree, drop in the comments. I read them. And if you found this useful, share it with someone who still thinks Washington always acts in good faith. They need to watch this clip. See you in the next one.